Imagine being a Hispanic high school student and having your counselor tell you to change your college interest application to vocational school, but you end up becoming the president of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. From local wheeling and dealing in Austin to gaining the respect and admiration from the high rollers in Washington, D.C., this is the story of J.R. Gonzalez, and you're watching Driven. J.R. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir.
Security company for well over a decade, communications PR company, served as chairman, president, and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, executive vice chairman of TAMAC, chairman of Leadership Tejas, and consistent international travel to Asia and beyond. You are probably one of the most connected Hispanic men in Texas, at least, that I know. But I'm curious. Who were you in high school?
I knew a few people. Who was I in high school?
Yeah, because we're going to lead up to everything,
All
but
right,
who were you in high school?
Well, let's lead up to it correctly.
Okay.
I was born on a Saturday.
Okay.
Is that going too far
What
back?
time, though? What time?
Okay, 11:48.
Hey.
No, I tell you what, before we go to high school, I think what's interesting is that in elementary school, I was shy, I was quiet. Dude, girls used to beat me up.
Really?
Okay.
Was this Austin, or where were you at?
This was in Austin.
Okay.
This actually was at, my dad was military, so I went to IW Popham.
Okay.
And then I transferred to Pleasant Hill Elementary.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Congress, South Congress.
Yeah. And I was out there for a while, and then Dad was in the military, would go overseas every now and then. But in my early years, it was just, I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean,
Really?
dogs scared me. Girls used to beat me up, and it was like,
Was it a self-confidence issue,
I
or
think
was
it was
it
self-confidence. I couldn't find the niche, you know.
I see.
Couldn't find the niche. There wasn't a lot of Latinos where growing up,
Yeah.
and the military is one thing. Everybody is kind of equal, but you start getting into communities and stuff. It's like, where do you fit? And so,
Okay.
a little self-conscious, just not sure. Junior high, Fulmore Junior High.
Okay.
Tell you what, you had to tough up at Fulmore. You know, this was back in the early '70s.
A little rough, kind of? Or?
A little rough. I'd go to the bathroom, and they'd steal my lunch money. So it was either don't go to the bathroom or don't eat lunch.
Wow.
You started getting a little tough. That's where in junior high I developed an office record. By today's standards, I'd have been considered an at-risk child because I was in fights, not because I was looking for trouble. I just wanted to eat lunch, man.
Yeah, they were coming
wanted
after
to
you.
eat lunch. So it was that. And then when I transferred to high school, I was very fortunate. Fortunate. Went to Crockett High School. David Crockett High
South
School.
side, South Austin?
South Austin all the way. Graduated in I was class of '76.
Okay.
And but what happened is when I was transferred over, or when I started high school, teachers already knew about me. Here's a troublemaker, Latino, Hispanic, or what they call it. I had a Spanish surname. Okay. We're talking Crockett at the time was 3,500 students.
Okay.
And there was only 200 students with Spanish surnames. Wow. So immediately when I arrived as a freshman, I met with my counselors, filled out the paperwork, and then I got called to the office. And they said, JR, you made a mistake. And I go, what do you mean I made a mistake? I mean, my real JR is Jaime Roed.
Yeah.
But I've been going by JR ever since I was 5 days old.
Okay.
And they'd call me Jamie. Jamie, come here. I go, yes, ma'am. I says, you made a mistake. I go, I made a mistake on what? You fill out the paperwork for college-bound students.
Oh.
I said, you need to fill out this paperwork. What's that paperwork? That's for like vocational training, sort of like for auto mechanics and bricklaying and woodwork. I go, no, ma'am, I didn't fill out the wrong paperwork.
They were choosing a different path, we'll call it.
They were choosing it for me. And then
Wow.
they go, then this is what guys said, you don't understand. If you're lucky enough to graduate from high school, and you get married, and you need to support your family, so you need to have a job. So if you take like auto mechanics or bricklaying, that'll ensure you to be able to support your family. I said, ma'am, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going this way. And so a brouhaha came, and it was embarrassing. My mother had to go up to the school and meet with them. And then when my mom walked in and met with the counselors, and they realized that she was a teacher, she was an educator, their whole attitude kind of changed.
Okay, they cleaned up their act now.
They cleaned up their act, okay?
Wow.
But keep in mind, I'm coming from a troubled junior high, always in fights, always in trouble. I mean, I had calluses on my butt. I mean,
Why were you always in trouble though? Was it
I was starting to act out a little bit.
like seeking attention,
It wasn't so
or
much seeking attention, but maybe seeking attention a little bit.
Okay.
But survival, it's kind of like distinguish who you are. You know,
Yeah,
separate
yeah,
yourself
basically.
from the crowd. And it was like any number of fights, and some I won, most of them I lost. I mean,
Yeah.
you got tough. You learn
Yeah.
how to take a punch. And so going into high school, I was already labeled as I had an office folder that day. I had calluses on my behind because I mean, back in those days, corporal
Paddled.
punishment. Yeah, I mean, just grab your
I
ankles,
remember those
look
days,
forward.
the 80s.
You know, it was 70s.
Yeah, well, I mean, me in the 80s, I was
Yeah,
getting
me in the
paddled in the
70s.
80s, yeah.
So it was fortunate in that what saved me, I think, was there was a teacher,
Okay.
Shirley Pacey. She was the speech coach.
Okay.
And someone said, I got in her class, and one day she's sitting there after class going, Frank, I want to see you. Kathy, I want to see you. Camille, I want to see you. I go, hey, teach, how about me? You know, she looks at me and goes, okay, JR, I'll see you after class. And so we meet after class. She goes, okay, it was at Bedichek Junior High at the time, which was a brand new school. She goes, there's a speech festival. There's a speech competition. If you guys want to go ahead and enter, we have prose reading, we have debate, we have poetry, we have that.
Okay.
I go, what? I mean, it was all foreign to me. I said, you know what? I'll try it. And so I ended up competing in UIL speech competition, and I came back with a ribbon of excellence or something.
Yeah.
And I said, this was pretty cool. And so she got me involved, and I started, in fact, I actually lettered in speech is one of the things. And so for the 4 years of high school, in fact, one of my degrees is in speech communication. So I took that path, but it was the teacher that got me that sense of being a little bit of an extrovert at times,
Okay.
and trying to channel my energy instead of acting out and performing.
Yeah.
I was able to place it, you know, in speech class, speech competition.
Okay.
Now, the little temper that I get from my father, by the way, and the fights, I was fortunate enough, and I made the freshman football team. And I played football all through high school, you know, freshman, B team, and then varsity.
All Crockett, by the way,
All
right?
Crockett.
All Crockett.
I got my letter.
Cougar, I believe?
Crockett Cougar, yes,
Okay.
sir. I'm a Crockett Cougar. My blood runs gold and brown.
There you go.
And so I got a letter in football, and I got a letter in speech, and I also got a letter in drama. I was a thespian, so I did a little bit of acting on stage. So I was kind of like, you know, where do I fit in? But it was something that I enjoyed,
Okay.
and I never could just do one thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I started getting involved in student council, and I ended up becoming student council president. Pulled some things off in that school that they've never seen before. But student body president, football, who's who, all that stuff. And it was just a matter of where I fit in, because there was a realization that I was one of very few Hispanics in the school.
Okay. You said only about 200-ish, more or less?
There's about 200 out of 3,500 students.
Okay.
And one teacher.
And now, by the way, I think now it's almost the other way
Oh
around.
yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, you can't.
Now it's majority Hispanic, I believe.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and it really hit me. It was about 10 years after I graduated, and I bumped into a teacher. It was one of my favorite teachers. And she said, JR, you know, you really taught a lot of us teachers a lot at Crockett. I go, what do you mean I taught you a lot? She goes, until you came to Crockett, we never knew little Mexican kids could take leadership roles in the school. I mean, really? And this was a friend. I mean, this was a
I was
teacher.
going to say, yeah.
I'm going, but that was the concept at the time, you know, is that, I mean, busing had just started, and, you know, Hispanics, they just all stuck together, and, you know, take vocational classes, and, you know, there wasn't any high expectations.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when I started breaking some of those norms, it caught a lot of people's attention.
And by the way, let me ask you, do you know what the Hispanic population was in the city at the time?
Oh, God.
Or the percentage, we'll say? I mean,
no.
did you even really care at that
I didn't
time?
really
or-
even care at the time.
Okay.
But I do know it's when I started at Southwest Texas State,
Okay.
which is now Texas State.
Yep.
I jokingly tell people when I enrolled, I increased the Hispanic enrollment. I increased the Hispanic population by at least 30%.
Oh, my.
Because there was me, there was the groundskeepers, and there was the cafeteria ladies, you know, and that was about it. Very few Latinos.
Wow.
Now, Texas State is a Hispanic Serving Institute, which means over 25% of their student population is Hispanic.
Really?
So that has changed. I mean, the whole state is changing, the demographics are changing, and I'm very fortunate in that I feel that at my age and my experiences in life, that I've kind of had a front row seat to watch
Yes,
this
very true.
this evolution.
Okay.
This evolution of from little Mexican boys that weren't able to do anything, and everybody just kind of looked down and had no expectations to what we're seeing now. And as the trend continues to grow, I mean, Latinos, we're the economic engine of Texas. I mean, we're the leaders. We're the things that are making it happen. A lot of people kind of look down and don't realize, but if you look at it, the average age of a Hispanic in the United States today is about 25 to 26 years old.
Okay.
The average age of everybody else is 45. Wow. So we're younger, we're childbearing, most of us are Catholics. We have a lot of kids, we're in the workforce. We are the future. You look at almost any school district, especially here in Texas, and even across the country, you look at anything from like 6th grade down, you're going to see nothing but little Hispanic
in a lot of these schools now are the bilingual, dual language they call it.
Dual language,
dual
the bilingual,
language.
or the ESL or whatever. I tell you what, when I growing up, no, we didn't have ESL. You spoke Spanish, you got paddled. You learn English real quick.
Hey, it's really funny you say that. I had a friend, this was years ago, we used to work together, older guy, probably your age, and he said back when he was in school, they used to hit them if they would speak Spanish. And the kids used to sneak their tacos, the Hispanic kids used to sneak their tacos in and eat them because they would get laughed at school if they were eating tacos. And now everybody, let's get some breakfast tacos or tacos this.
Yeah,
tacos
but in school, now they're called wraps.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, we don't call them tacos anymore. We're called wraps. And you jack up the price like $2 per unit. But anyway,
oh my goodness!
But it was a different experience. So as I experienced that, it was like, wow.
In college,
I had college. I even had some issues in college because there again, not a whole lot of Hispanics in college dealing through the social things and everything.
Early
else.
80s at this point, right?
We're talking
79-ish?
You were talking late 70s. Graduated from college 81.
Okay.
So went through all that, and then of course afterwards. Just very ambitious, very aggressive. I was very proud of the fact that right out of college, I was kind of recruited, if you will, but I worked for 2 senators, a U.S. congressman, and was a senatorial aide in the state legislature, all by age 25.
How did you land that, though? The truth. How did you land it off? Or do you remember?
I do. All right. I can't believe you're getting this out of me.
Let it out. These are the stories that I love to hear.
All right. When I was graduating, and keep in mind, I worked my way through college.
Okay.
My parents were in a position, my first semester freshman year was taken care of. After that, it had to be student loans, grants, working every summer, working during spring break, working part-time jobs as you're going to school, whatever it took.
Okay.
So I did whatever it took, and I appreciate that because it taught me the value of hard work, a work ethic, and the value of a dollar.
Okay.
So I put out some resumes out there once I graduated, and it was Thanksgiving break. I remember it well. And I was at my parents' house, who lived right here in Manchaca, and I got a call. Her name was Gail Harris.
Gail Harris.
She goes, is this looking for J.R. Gonzalez? I go, ma'am, this is J.R. I said, Ms. Gonzalez, you still looking for employment? This is Gail Harris with Senator Kothman's office over in the state capitol. And I go, yes, ma'am, I am. And she goes, well, you think when can you come in for an interview? And I go, today? She goes, it's Thanksgiving, J.R. How about Monday? And I go, okay, Monday. So I put on my little coat and tie and everything. I ran over to the Capitol, and I was about halfway through the interview, and she just smiled, shut the folder, and said, so when can you start? And I go, when do you need me? And so I got the job working as a senatorial aide in the state legislature back, and it was the 67th legislative session, so it was way back when. Now, about a week or two goes by, and one of the things, my duties was I had to file away all the applications of the people that didn't get the jobs. I kind of peeked through there.
Seeing who's who.
Yeah, I kind of like, wow, there's some qualified people in here. Wow. And so I said, I went and I go, Ms. Harris, I have a question for you. She goes, yeah, JR. She says, will you answer me honestly? And I go, I'll do my best. I go, why me? Why did I get the job? There's so many better qualified people.
Not that you looked, but.
Not that I looked. And she smiled. She goes, well, you kind of asked the wrong question. She said, yeah, there's a lot of qualified people. You should ask, why did you get the interview? And I go, She goes, once I interviewed you, and I got to meet you, your personality, you spoke Spanish, you're from the area. It seemed to be a fit.
Okay.
Well, unbeknownst to a lot of people, you remember I said I'd worked my way through college? Mm-hmm. One of my jobs, it was my freshman year, I did my freshman year and my through the summer and my first semester my sophomore year. I worked at Ocarina Springs.
I remember that.
Now,
Glass bottom boat.
The glass bottom boats. And what was the main attraction at Ocarina Springs?
Was it the mermaid? No.
Ralph the Swimming Pig.
That's right. Okay, I remember. Yeah, we used to go field trips, I think, back in school.
Yes, believe it or not, but I actually was one of the witch doctors that swam with Ralph the Swimming Pig.
Really?
I did 2 semesters in a summer at Ocarina Springs, and I was making, what, $2.95 an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And minimum wage was $3.15, but we were seasonal help, so they could pay us less. I mean, $2.95 an hour, swimming with a pig, dude. I mean, seriously. So when Ms. Harris said, she said, you asked the wrong question. She goes, why did I get the interview? Because I was flipping through all these applications, and when I saw that you swam with a pig for a living, I said, I got to meet this guy. So it was the pig that actually got me the job in the Capitol that started an entire career track that, you know, still affects me today.
No, it's a beautiful story. Because I don't think you've told this story that many times.
It's a little, I mean, it's not embarrassing, but it's kind of like.
It's real life.
I swam with a pig. They go, really? In fact, that is the working title of a book I'm working on, and it's called Swimming with Pigs, with the subtitle, You Are the Total Sum of Your Experiences, because that pig changed my life in a lot of different ways, believe it or not.
Now, if you're doing that 2 years ago, I might be like, hey, but yeah, if it was, 40, 30, whatever years ago, then we understand.
It was.
We're not holding it against you.
No. And then you mentioned, for 15 years, I owned a private security and investigations company. Yeah. At one point, we had about 110 employees.
Wow.
It was a good operation.
So hold on. So you went from the Capitol, working for them.
I went from the Capitol.
Okay.
I worked for that, and then after that, I opened up. I worked for a radio station for a little while. Okay. I did some other stuff. Nothing seemed to really fit. God, I even worked for a rent-to-own store one time, Quality Rentals.
Oh, like the Rent-A-Center type?
Yeah, right, rent-to-own type stuff.
Okay.
I just couldn't find my niche, and nothing really fit.
Did you have any, let me ask you this, though. Did you have guidance at home that kind of like, hey, mijo, do you want to do this? You want to do that? Or was it you just kind of,
it was just
I
me.
know everything?
Well, it wasn't me knowing everything. It was me, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I mean,
true.
I mean, I had great parents. My parents supported me by any way they could, and I'm very, very blessed to have both my parents with me still today.
Okay.
But it's kind of like, whatever you want to do, mijo. And I go, okay.
They backed it up.
They'd back it up no matter what.
Okay.
So I tried a bunch of little stuff and came to the conclusion I just didn't like taking orders or following people's directions very well. And so at age 26, I started a public relations advertising firm.
Okay.
And it was JRG Communications. It was JRG and Associates, and later when we incorporated, it became JRG Communications. And we did television commercials, we did stuff in Spanish and English, we did TV, we did radio, we did marketing,
mid-'80s,
newspaper,
I'm assuming.
Billboards, everything.
Wow.
And then that got off to a start, and it was doing really well.
Yeah.
And about halfway through, I had about 2 or 3 years into it, I had a group of guys that I knew said, Gerald, we want to start advertising. We want to start a security company.
Okay.
And I go, okay, well, knock yourself out, because we need somebody to bankroll it. Well,
everybody has ideas, but they don't have the money.
And I was doing well, okay?
Yeah,
but the thing that I didn't mention is that when I was in college, one of my jobs was working as a security guard.
Okay.
So I worked as a security guard. I learned the security industry from the ground up. Yeah. And about my senior year, and I like working security because I could actually study, while I'm getting paid.
Okay.
Now, it just so happens, and life is strange, is that my senior year, a lot of my security assignments were at Ocarina Springs, guarding Ralph, that dang swimming pig.
The celebrity.
That I was just like, it would always upstage me. So I'm going, God, life is crazy. So
he was a Shamu of the area.
Hey, easy, buddy. I'm trying to cut down.
No, he was
okay. He was a Shamu there. I feel like Shamu right now, but anyway.
You're good.
So we ended up, so they went ahead and I said, you know what? So I gave them some financing. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the time, it wasn't a whole lot, but at the time it was a lot of money. It was like, what was it, like 15,000.
Yeah.
Let's get started. After about 6 months, they weren't doing anything. They ran it into the ground, and then they all just disappeared. And I got held owning a security license, $15,000 that I'd shelled out of pocket.
Yeah.
And I said, what am I going to do with this? So I said, well, you know what? Let me just take over the security company.
Okay.
And so I went out and found some contracts.
So the marketing and everything, you had somebody covering that?
Well,
kind of.
Actually, that was a crazy part, because during the day, I ran a public relations advertising firm. Okay. And in the evening, I ran a security company. And so we had both. And we had offices where we had ad agency here, security company here. I'd go up and down the hall with different personnel running everything. I mean,
Married at this point or no?
with the same woman, Pauline.
Okay.
I mean, Pauline's been with me a long time, and it was like, so that was the business.
Okay.
And so the security company started off, and it was really funny because my first contract was a patrol service, and it was just checking on a building 4 or 5 times a night. So I'm going, one building, you know, we had like one building. So on Friday, Saturday nights, I'd play poker with my buddies and go, okay, deal me out for a while. I'd get a security jacket with blue jeans and tennis shoes, get in my car, go over there, check it, everything's fine, and go back. So we ended up starting a patrol service, and then the standing guards, of course. But the interesting thing is that the patrol service, you needed cars.
Okay.
And I didn't have any cars. And here's where it kind of got unique, in that over there off the Riverside area,
okay,
that was a rough area even back then. And I had saw where a security company had some issues on this property. And so I approached this, hey, if you're ever looking for a security company, this is who I am, here's my card. And this person was ready to change. This manager was ready to sign a new
You were the
contract.
gift from God.
I could sell ice cubes to Eskimos. I smooth talked her. I said, boom, 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 here's the contract. And I said, but every security company usually has a clause that you need to give 30 days written notice. Okay. So she was ready. So I knew I had 30 days to prepare. Yeah. So I go, here's the contract, here you go, here's the pin. She's ready to sign in. Right before she signs, she goes, JR, I just realized I haven't seen your patrol cars. I didn't have any patrol cars.
Oh, you were just going in your personal vehicle.
I didn't have any patrol cars yet because I wasn't in the business yet, really. And so I said, oh, okay. She goes, can you bring your patrol car by, or do you have a picture so I can see it? And I go, yeah, I can do that. But you know what, Kathy? Since I like you so much, I'm going to do you a favor. She goes, what's that? I go, here's the problem with a lot of security companies. They come in with their patrol cars, the name on the side, the lights, the reflective tape. They drive through, the lights, people see them, and your residents know that's going to be about 4 or 5 hours before they come back. And that's where the crime is. That's where the vandalism is. That's where the issues are. So I'm going to give you our special undercover car.
You're quick.
At no extra charge, I'm going to give you our undercover car. She goes, oh, really? I go, yeah. She goes, describe it. It's a 1975 Toyota. It's green with a missing headlight. We called it the Moco.
So let me guess, your personal car at the time.
It was my second-hand personal car. And in there will be a uniformed, certified security guard, commissioned to carry a weapon, the whole bit. And by the undercover car, your residents will not know when we're there or not. So we'll be able to catch the people that are actually the culprits and cause a deterrent on your property. She loved the idea so much, she signed the contract.
You're good.
Called 3 or 4 of her friends and had me sign up by 3 or 4 other apartment complexes.
Wow.
But the thing is, we had no cars.
Yeah.
So this is what I did. The other half, Pauline, her dad lived in Idaho.
Okay.
And there was an auction going on. And so, auction, all right. So what we did is we gave him a budget, and he bought 4 state patrol cars at auction. Okay.
Like the Caprice or something type of?
Yeah, well, they were Furies at the time. They were the big 4-door Furies with the big engines and all that. So what we did, so he bought the cars. He goes, okay, I bought you 4 cars. I go, okay. So I went ahead and I got 4 people airline tickets. Pauline was one of them. We flew them to Idaho. I go, drive all 4 cars back. And so they flew to Idaho, drove the 4 cars back. I said, I want you to keep meticulous records on gas mileage, sounds, tell me which car is the best.
Yeah.
So they drove all the cars back, and then upon getting back to Texas, I kept 2, sold the other 2 that paid for the trip and the cars, and so we started off with 2 patrol cars.
Wow.
And that's the way we actually got into the patrol business, and then security guards after that, doing some nightclubs, doing grocery stores, stationary guards, construction sites, the whole bit. Salvation Army. I mean, we had quite a list of clients at the time.
And the whole time, the public relations and marketing and all that.
I was running both.
Simultaneously going.
Simultaneously going on. I used to joke because it was interesting because when the economy was good, my ad agency was smoking. When the economy was bad, the security company was smoking.
Everybody robbing.
Everybody. So people go, well, Jared, how's your security company doing? I go, be doing great if it wasn't for those high prices that advertising agency cost me. Because I mean, come on, I would spend money with each other, whoever needed it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But then, so we actually had two operations, totally different from your creative people, your artists, your writers, your salespeople, to your hourly employee, wannabe cop sometimes. But I had some really good people but it was after 9/11. After 9/11, I said, security business isn't worth it anymore.
Really? What was that the wake-up call for you? Or?
One, it was getting tighter and tighter. I always said, I want to own the company. I don't want the company to own me.
True.
And when the company started owning me, and boy, I could fill a book full of stories of security guard stories that just would scare the...
You bought yourself a job, realistically.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like, it's time to get out. It's time to get out. So got out of the security industry, focused in on the marketing, public relations.
Okay.
And then it was about that time I started getting involved, because I'd always been involved in Hispanic chambers. I mean, I was at the, I first learned chamber work when I was in college.
Okay.
Because I was a student, with student government at Texas State or Southwest Texas State. And one of the...
were they real strong at that time, or was it just kind of like...
Was who real strong?
The Hispanic chambers at the time?
Hispanic chambers were just new at the time.
Okay.
But I was going through the student union area, and the student body vice president said, Jared, check this out. And he threw me a flyer. And the flyer read, San Marcos Chamber of Commerce seeks student to be ex officio member on board of directors. I go, what's the Chamber of Commerce? I go, I don't know. So I went to check it out, and the lady who greeted me, which is a dear friend, and we're still dear friends today.
Yeah.
She said I walked in there like I was somebody, you know. Walked in jeans, an Army field jacket, and I go, yo, I got this flyer. What's this about?
Did you say it in those words too?
Pretty much. And then she goes, well, the executive director is in here. You got to meet with him. I go, well, what's the Chamber of Commerce? Lo and behold, I got on the board of directors of this Chamber of Commerce. This wasn't Hispanic.
San Marcos.
It was San Marcos Chamber. So I learned watching some of these people. I sat in the board meetings. I got to read the budget. I went with them on their retreats. I mean, it was a great experience. So I learned about chambers at an early age. So then after I started my business, I got involved with the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. What year is this, by the way?
This was going to be, 81. This is going to be mid-'80s.
Okay.
This is going to be about the mid-'80s. And then I got involved with the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. My company was so small and so new.
Yeah. Do you remember how many members they had at the time, maybe?
It was pretty big at the time. They were growing.
Okay.
But probably 300 or 400 at the time.
Wow. Okay.
Then when I joined, I couldn't even afford the dues. So I talked them into getting my dues comped if I wrote, if I was their photographer.
Something.
I did the newsletters. I wrote the stories. I did all the photography work. So I did that in lieu of my dues, because I didn't have anything. And so then I started growing and growing. Then I actually got on the board of directors, and that was a challenge with it. That's another story within itself. I got on the board of directors. I was on the board of directors for a while. Then I became chairman of the board for 2 terms. And it was interesting because I was chairman of the board. In the second term of my chairmanship was the 25th anniversary of the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, you had to throw a big party.
Which was, it was 25th anniversary, which now it's the Greater Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And at the time, we actually had a membership of about 1,400. I mean, it was a big operation. So I ran that, and then I became, for a period of time, I became the president and CEO of the of the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And one of the programs I'm very proud of is HAL, and still exists today. It's Hispanic Austin Leadership Program. I was the one who introduced the concept of that program that still exists today.
Yeah.
So after that, I was getting involved with TAMAC, the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. So I got involved with that. I was on its board of directors, worked my way up, became chairman of the board of that organization for 2 terms, and in the second term was the 25th anniversary of TAMAC. So I go, okay, history repeats itself. And then I became president and CEO of TAMAC for a short period of time. All right. So now we're about 1999. And then I get on the board.
But you're getting connected left and right.
Dude, I'm getting connections.
You're on fire, I bet.
I'm getting connections. I mean, it's not what you know, but who you know. Then about 1999, I ran for the board of directors, and just a very narrow margin got on the board of directors of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
How did that connection happen, though? How did
Well,
you go from Austin to, because that's based out of D.C., I think, right? How did that connection happen?
Well, a lot of people don't realize this. Keep in mind that, first of all, Hispanic chambers started in Texas.
Really? I
The
didn't know
oldest
that.
Hispanic chambers that are 80 plus years old, San Antonio, Dallas, and Corpus.
I didn't know that. That's
Okay?
interesting. Yeah.
So the genesis of Hispanic chambers were in Texas. TMAC started in 1975.
Okay.
Okay? Now, at one of TMAC's meetings, they came to the conclusion that now that we have this, we need a national organization. And so the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce actually used the TMAC bylaws as a template to form theirs, to form the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. On my way up, and as I'm a facilitator and trainer, I've been out to California to help them start their statewide Hispanic chamber.
Okay.
I've been out to Florida to help them start their chamber. I've trained in New York and helped them start their statewide chamber. So I've helped a lot of folks form because we started it here in Texas.
And you understand it.
And I understand it intimately, every little nook and cranny, especially.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you have chambers of commerce and you have Hispanic chambers. These are different animals. I
Okay.
mean, they are just different animals. So as I understand the nuances, the politics, and the obstacles, it's something that I've learned, that I've gotten good at. And so along with everything, I was a speaker, a facilitator, a trainer, and so it kind of rose. So to
helped,
answer
yeah,
your
yeah.
question, there was those connections.
I see.
So as a member, as TMAC, we would go to USHCC conventions. And so I
Okay.
got my first glimpse. I said, this is pretty cool. And so I ran for the board of directors. Got on the board of directors, and then worked my way up, got reelected. Make a long story short, I became chairman of the board of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I got elected for 2 terms.
I'm assuming you
And
moved to D.C.
And
or
in my second term was the 25th anniversary of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And I said, no, history cannot be repeating itself for the 3rd time.
it was meant to be, man.
Sure enough.
It was meant to be.
Then the president and CEO resigned. He had a great opportunity. He left the organization, and the board of directors moved me up, and I became president and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce.
Wow.
So I ran that operation, had about a $10 million plus budget, had a staff of 23 people, had offices in Washington, D.C., Mexico City. I was flying all over the place, flying into Mexico City a lot, wouldn't be unusual to be in 4 or 5 different time zones in one given week.
So let me ask you, so now, and this is just my personal curiosity, a lot of chambers now, are there paid positions and the majority is volunteer,
Oh, yeah,
or how exactly do they work?
It's like anything else. You have the paid staff.
Okay.
Just pretty much everybody's volunteers.
The top 1, 2, or 3
Yeah,
maybe.
the top people are usually, you have your staff people, they get paid to run the chamber on a daily operation.
Okay.
Their daily operations, and that's
Yes, yeah.
usually the president, president or executive director. So you have your chairman of the board is the head person who's the elected position.
Yeah.
And you have your board of
He's
directors.
got the salary, though.
Or she.
Or she, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, that's the chairman of the board. The chairperson is the volunteer position.
Okay.
And it's the president or executive director that's the paid position.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so those are the differences. And it's kind of funny because going through there, I go, hey, Dad, guess what? I became chairman of the board of the Austin Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Well, good, mijo. Does it pay? No, it's volunteer. Well,
Okay. La.
Hey, Dad, I became chairman of the board of the Texas Association of Mexican American Chambers of Commerce. And he goes, does it pay? No. He goes, okay. Dad, coming back, I'm now chairman of the board of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Does it pay? I go, no, sir. He goes, all right, mijo, I guess you know what you're doing. And one day, Dad, I'm now the president and CEO of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. He goes, does it pay? I go, oh, yeah.
Pays nicely.
He goes, get down to mijo. Wrote it down. He goes, it was worth it. So
You know what's funny? You say that, just to throw this in. I was a marketing director for a period of time for Score Austin. Okay. So I know my stuff. I'm a marketing guy. Okay. When I became the marketing director, and people asked me, they said, "So how much you get paid?" I said, "Oh, I don't get paid anything." And he said, "So why are you doing it?" I said, "Because connections are more valuable than money. Access is more valuable than money." And that alone opened so many doors.
Oh, that
for me.
did.
Yeah.
It was.
And I'm sure for you the same.
Once I was there, because my base salary at USHC was modest. I mean, it was okay, And then with my bonuses, incentives, I mean, I was raking it in. I mean,
Yeah,
I was doing well. So I was living in Washington, D.C. I was in Washington, D.C. for 9 years. Had a home here, went back and forth, traveled. It was a great life. But I went through the, when W was president. Now, keep in mind, when W was president, and I was with Tamak, he was governor of Texas. So I knew him from Texas. And so when he became president, soon thereafter, I moved up. And we still knew each other. So, I mean, it's pretty cool when the President of the United States knows you by name. And calls you out in a crowd. And he loved to practice his Spanish. You know, W would love to practice his Spanish with me. He says, "JR, ¿cómo estás, amigo?" I'm doing fine, Mr. President. How are you? And he was interesting fellow. I mean, really liked him. So I was there through the Bush years, and then of course Obama. I was at Obama's inauguration and saw part of that. And being in Washington, D.C., I mean, was an experience.
What's the movement like as far as the daily operations in the political arena? Is it fast? Is it like Hollywood? You know, when you go to LA, you go to Hollywood, everyone is talk, kind of like a fake talk? Or what is the daily movement of DC that you saw?
In my book, DC was like Top Gun.
Really?
I mean, you had to it was the best of the best.
I see.
You made a mistake, you didn't last long. And people would gel. You'd see people, your little cliques, your little enclaves. But the coolest thing is you're sitting at a watering hole. I mean, it's not 9 to 5. I mean, you work until the job gets done. You may be working until all hours of the night, and that's fine. You do the job. I mean, when it comes to it, you're probably working a lot more than you're getting, you know.
Yeah, when you break it down by the hours or whatever.
You know, like maybe minimum wage. But the thing is, the contacts, the people you're meeting, the things that you get to do is just phenomenal. I mean, you have a front row seat to history, watching it unfold there. But
well, you're part of it also.
Yeah, when you're also part, when you're sitting around a dinner table with some friends, and you go, okay, Michael, you're with SBA, Daniel, you're with the White House, you're with DOJ, you're with DOD. I run the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. You run the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. You do this. It's kind of like you got all these top players, and it's kind of like, wow, just the influence around that table of what we could impact was huge. So
Hispanic kid from South Austin.
Well, you know,
that they didn't believe in.
Born in Mercedes, Texas, man, little valley. It was interesting, and then we had our favorite restaurants, and we had our favorite stuff, and then it was interesting because in that it was like all the Latinos kind of found each other in D.C. very quickly. It's kind of like we'd help each other out.
And there was no LinkedIn back then.
No,
no LinkedIn.
There wasn't LinkedIn.
None of that stuff.
LinkedIn, no, LinkedIn.
None of that stuff back then.
It was my apartment. It was funny because my apartment was like an adult hostel, you know. People would come in, hey, Jerry, I'm going to be in town. And I had this old raggedy red couch that rolled out into a bed. I've had more people in and out of that apartment, you know. Some even had keys because I would do a lot of traveling.
Yeah.
But we always try to help each other out. Always, somebody new to town, we'd show them around town. We'd show them the ropes, where to go, where not to go. You made some of the best friendships I ever made. You know, were in D.C. But it was fast paced. No room for error. It was critical, and a realization that things that you were doing made a difference.
I see.
And to have that responsibility, I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, when you get a call from the White House, and it's the White House going, hey, JR, the president's doing this, and this, and we need to make sure we have a good crowd there, and we need some diversity, and we need this, and this. Who can you get on the phone? And I need these many people. I need to by such and such time. You go, all right, let me on it. Boom, you're working the phones, you're doing the stuff, you know, and then 2 days later you see a press conference with all these people you made phone calls to sitting behind the president, you know, as he's signing some document. I go, boom, score, we got it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, I'm not saying it's showmanship, but there's a lot that goes into it, to the protocols, the things you're supposed to do and not do. So some of my best years, well, hopefully I still have a lot of years left, but those 9 years were very memorable, very memorable. They were fun, they were exciting, they were full of, you never knew from day to day what was going to happen. So it was,
and now I remember we were talking prior, so you take people, I don't know if it's people from DC or from here, but you literally fly people to other countries, not just for business, but basically, I don't want to call it a tour guide, but kind of like a tour guide maybe?
Call me a tour guide, I tell you what.
To China and Japan?
When I was in DC, I was doing, after I finished my tour of duty as president of United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I stayed there and I worked, did some stuff with the Pew Center, with the American GI Forum. I worked with the Hispanic Heritage Foundation. I worked with a lot of different groups, but I was also doing consulting. And so I would fly out to Nevada, Reno, Nevada, and I was their consultant. I'd go 1 week out of the month. And they paid me pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd live in Nevada. I'd live in a casino hotel. And I did my deal and I'd fly back. Well, the lady there, the president of the chamber, and it was a Hispanic chamber, she goes, Jared, we're going to China. And he says, there's a group of us going to China with this other chamber. Do you want to go? Sure, you know, but, you know, I don't know if I can. Jared, you got to go to China with us. You got to go to China. Well,
what year was this, by the way?
This was about, years, I'm terrible about that. This was probably about 15 years ago.
Okay. So I'm assuming your first time in China.
Yeah, that'll be my first time in China. They go, you got to go. And I said, Mauri, I go, look, Mauri Centeno was her name. I go, look, I'd really want to go, but to be honest with you, with all my travel and everything, I just don't have the money right now. I'd love to go, but I can't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
She goes, you know what? I'll advance you the money on your retainer. And I'm going, so I couldn't say no.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I really had no plans of, China.
You're like, all right, let's go.
Man, I almost didn't get my passport. I mean, just a whole array of stuff that should have gone wrong fell into place. Got on the plane, went to China, not really prepared for anything. When we landed, I wasn't in China but about 4 or 5 hours and go, wow.
Really?
Wow. I go, I want to come back. Especially when the tour guide mentioned, China is 1.3 billion people. Yeah. Okay. And he said tourism is their third largest industry. Huh. And he goes, but out of that, less than 10% are Americans. And I go, ching, ching.
There's money.
Only 10% Americans. I wonder how many are actually Latinos. Probably very few. The contacts I have. So the wheels started turning. So that tour, my first trip to China, saw it through a completely different set of eyes, like, what am I going to do? So I came back, tried to find the owner of the tour company. Now, the owner of the tour company had a bad experience with people from Mexico, and since my last name was Gonzalez, really wasn't too anxious to meet me, So I kept pushing, So after about 6 weeks, he finally agreed. So he comes out, flies out of California, and he's Chinese. He flew out of California, met me in Austin. We went over to the shoreline and had a fish dinner, because that's all he eats is fish. And he says Americans like to make deals over dessert. So over dessert, we shook hands. Now, he normally only deals with Chamber of Commerce. I was not a Chamber of Commerce. Okay. I was an individual. But I knew everybody in the Chamber of Commerce world. Yeah. So he agreed. And so I took my first group to China. And to date, I've taken over 13. Been to China 13 times. Wow. I've stood on the wall.
Average once a year. On average.
For a while there, I was going twice a year. Then I took about a 5-year hiatus.
Oh, okay.
And then I started going again. So I've taken close to 700 people to China.
So I'm curious. So you might take 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever at a time. You're basically the quote-unquote tour guide now, right? Or
I am the group leader.
The group leader.
Because we have professional tour guides on the ground.
Okay.
But I know where the black market, I know where the discounted items are. Man, you get to know China. I mean, Beijing, Shanghai, Suzhou, Hangzhou, Xi'an, the marketplaces, where the little stuff that falls off a truck, where you can get the purses, where you can get this.
The fake AirPods.
For a while there, I was going every 6 months.
Wow.
And so, the skyline in China would change every 6 months. So they got to know me. And look, and a little picking on myself here, I love the Chinese people, okay?
Yeah.
And they like me. And I'm not trying to sound arrogant here, but when I smile, my eyes kind of cringe up, and I got this belly. They think I look like the happy Buddha. So there I am, just kind of smiling. They go, oh, Buddha. And I go, yeah, so let's make a deal. And I've learned a lot from business, dealing with the Chinese. With the Chinese, everybody gets a little bit of a taste. Yeah. And then two, some people ask me, Jared, why do you go to China so much? I go, if you have to ask, you don't get it. I mean, economically, look where we are with China. Look where the global situation, the geopolitical politics, the stuff that's going on with tariffs right now. China is a huge economic force. Yeah. They have 1.3 billion people. 1.3 billion. The United States only has 300 million. We're the 0.3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think Clinton had something to do with that?
Well,
Because there were rumors that after he, let's just say, helped them out a little bit, they shot up like crazy.
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on that I'm not particularly fond of.
Yeah, yeah.
But people go, oh, they're a communist country. Yeah, communist, but they're the most capitalistic country, one of the most capitalistic.
Everybody's hustling.
Everybody's hustling.
Happen.
Everybody's, and they're doing it, but they're working for it. They're working for it.
I see.
And so I really appreciate it. And then two, whether you like it or not, if China sneezes, the U.S. coughs. We're connected. I mean, that's our largest lending partner. And with China, they can kind of control their own currency. They don't have the type of rules that we do. And China's been making here, as of late, been making some very, very aggressive moves into South America, Central America, and Mexico.
Okay.
They're really moving. And as all this stuff we see in the news right now, this whole, what I'm going to call almost this anti-Latino sentiment that's going on, the Chinese are taking advantage of that. They're taking advantage of that and moving into areas that we used to occupy.
And they're coming in with cash.
Oh, they're coming in with cash, and they're buying up stuff. It's interesting because, there's all the negative press about Mexico and the wall and everything else. But Mexico is now the U.S.'s #1 trading partner. And they used to be number 2 and number 3.
Okay.
But with the tariffs that are going on in China, that revenue dropped down.
I see.
And so China dropped in the position, and Mexico moved up. And now there's other tariffs, and now there's the USMC, which is the new NAFTA trade agreement that's going on. But a lot of people don't realize this whole global economy, it's like the United States cannot afford to be an isolationist. They just can't afford to build walls around them and do it their way and the heck with everybody else. We are intermixed with everything. And then what I see in China and the way they handle stuff, the work ethic, the people here, an American, especially a millennial, they have 8 different jobs, 8 different careers. Over there, they may only have 1 job for their entire life, maybe 2. I mean, it's a whole different thing. And if they don't do the job, there's thousands of other people waiting to take that job.
No matter how much it pays either.
Exactly, or how much it doesn't pay. So it's going on. So we got to realize that in this whole global market, what I've had the advantage by traveling to China and extensive traveling in Mexico, Costa Rica, Spain, Canada, as I go, I do it for pleasure, but also business because I'm learning.
Yes.
I'm learning, but here's
contacts.
Here's the entrepreneur and the Gonzalez in me. Okay, let me share this. Now, the first time I went to China, I paid. Okay, as a tourist to go.
Yes.
To deal with the company I work with, if I get so many people to sign up, I go for free.
Can't beat that.
Okay, and I get so many people to sign up, and I get to keep a little bit of commission.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've actually been to China 13 times, and I've paid once. And I love it. What better way to actually go someplace than actually?
Oh no, that'd be wonderful.
It's great. And so right now I'm putting together a group to go to Spain.
Okay.
Next October. I had Cuba all lined up with 60 people, but this administration changed the rules, closed Cuba, so I couldn't go to Cuba. I wanted to see that before it changed, and then I'll probably end up going back to China. I mean, because I just love China, and I can get a good deal. When I can take people to China for 9 days for airfare, 4- and 5-star hotels, 3 meals a day, transportation, tour guides, everything for turnkey for $24.99. I mean,
that's not bad.
No, can't beat that. I mean, some of the best hotels I've stayed in the world have been in China.
Really?
I mean, some of the weirdest things I've eaten have been in China. But
25. That's not really that.
No, and it's so eclectic, and it's interesting too, because for a while there I'd have my own translator when I was doing business. And I was at a business meeting one time, and I was talking to this guy. I had a translator, and then somebody said, "Hey, JR," and I go, "Mande," and the guy goes, "Hablas español?" Sí, claro. And so we didn't even need the translator anymore. We just switched. And as it's really kind of disturbing, Hamid, that, and you can appreciate this. You travel the rest of the world, and multiple languages are being spoken. Yet there seems to be this resistance here in America, here in the United States, that if you're in the United States, you got to speak English. Well, you don't have to. It helps a lot, but it's like it's amazing how not knowing 2 or 3 languages is really thwarting our growth and development.
Yeah.
I mean, it's proven that people who speak multiple languages, or at least 2 languages, have a higher intellectual capacity.
Yeah.
I know parents that are sticking their kids in bilingual schools or training, to get that.
My
language.
son is in one. Yeah. My little one is in one.
There's no sense of just knowing one language, no matter where you are.
Yeah. So with all your travels, let me ask you this: We got about 10 minutes left, but with all your travels and even your career travels, we'll call them, your domestic, moving and shaking and meeting people and moving up the ladder, and it seems like you're always at the top of things that you do. That's what I'm starting to really catch on to, and obviously networking. I mean, I thought maybe you started LinkedIn. What's his name? Reed Hastings or Hoffman, whichever one. One was Netflix, one was LinkedIn. But what are the takeaways and things that you've noticed over, let's say, 20, 30 years that seem to be commonalities, regardless whether it's the entrepreneur side of you or whether it's the corporate side of you or the networking side? What are some takeaways that you're like, this I apply to this and this and this and this and this I apply, you know what I'm saying? It's
That's a good question. One of the things that I realized, and I'm no spring chicken anymore.
Okay.
Here I am and here I am, but in the mornings I can feel it.
Yeah.
One of the things is being able to constantly change.
Okay.
Every now and then I say, okay, JR, is it time to reinvent yourself? And I'm not talking about reinvent me, my personality.
Yeah.
Reinvent what I do. Yeah. Do I still enjoy it? Am I still getting out of it? Because I'm a firm believer, that money should be a byproduct of doing what you enjoy doing.
Yes, I agree.
Money should be a byproduct of doing what you enjoy doing. And in life, I feel, and thank you very much, I'm not at the top of my game, but
no,
I've
held
some
top
pretty
positions.
good positions. But the reason I've held it because I had a desire. I wanted to be there. I enjoyed it. And when I don't enjoy it, it's time to quit. Yeah. I wouldn't trade my experience in Washington, D.C. for anything in the world. Yeah. But after 9 years, time to come back to Texas. Mm-hmm. And right now, among other things, I'm running the Buda Area Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. People go, JR, from Washington, D.C. to Buda, Texas. I go, explain that to me. I go, well, there's a reason for it. But I'm having fun running that chamber. I'm still being able to do speaking engagements and travel. I'm working with TAMAC, the Tech Association.
Yeah, you're also on the chairman of, or vice chairman of TAMAC.
Vice chairman TAMAC, and because I've been chairman before. I don't want to be chairman again. Yeah. But now we've started a statewide leadership program. Mm-hmm. We're doing professional development and training for people, and so instead of sitting in Washington D.C., clawing my way up to try to stay at the top of the game, I said, let's go back home. I have my parents here that are still with us, and I want to start training and teaching the next generation.
I see.
The next generation of young people, and the goal is I would like to see them achieve more than I did, and that is the idea.
What are your regrets?
My regrets? I can't identify under regret, and let me tell you why. The mistakes I made, I learned things, or there was a causality to it. If I were to go back and not do something that I regretted, I would almost be afraid of what kind of person would I be today.
I see.
Because whatever it is taught me a lesson. Yeah. Ergo, what I said earlier, the book that I'm working on, you are the total sum of your experiences. Okay. So even though that may have been a bad experience or a regretful situation, I learned from it. And if I didn't experience that, what's to say I couldn't have made that mistake down the road or later, or have somehow changed the direction I would go in, who I am or who I met. So I'm comfortable with who I am and myself. There's some things I've done I'm not proud of. Yeah.
Everyone has a little history.
And I wish I wouldn't have done them, but at the same time, they're done. Accept it, own it, move forward, and try to become a better person for it. And I just love challenges. I just love challenges and doing things that have never been done before. Mm. And people go, Jared, why do you enjoy doing that? I go, because it's a smart thing to do. If you do things that have never been done before, number one, you're the first person. Yeah. Second, there's nothing to measure you by. So, really, there's nothing to measure you by. So you do it the first time. Other people come back and do it better, fine. But I was the first one. Boom, next. That's
like what's it called, the 4-minute mile guy.
Yeah, just kind of like.
It's like he had 4 minutes, but nobody could do it, and then all of a sudden, one person does it, then everybody starts.
Because it can be done.
Yeah.
So I love pushing the envelope, and the thing is, ever since I was a kid, just don't tell me I can't do something, because I'm gonna get determined and focused to want to do it just because I was told I couldn't. Yeah. And there has to be a lot of My partner, Pauline, she's the best. She pushes me.
How many years, by the way, now?
Oh my gosh, on TV, you're going to ask me? 36?
Okay.
37?
Wow.
Okay. It was like yesterday, so that's why I can't remember the years. We've been together a long time.
It's been honeymoon for the past 36 years.
Got it. Yes. You have people in your lives, and she's been very supportive, and with everything, very supportive of what I do, and of course I support her with what she does, and it's just a good partnership, a good combination. But the thing is, comfortable with who I am, and I have no. Earlier in my life, when I was kind of insecure about stuff, no insecurities. I mean, I have been very fortunate. I have met 5 U.S. presidents.
That's really cool.
I've met 3 Mexican presidents, and I've met any number of presidents from different countries: Costa Rica, Spain, Ecuador. You know, all these places around the world and places I've been. It is very cool. And I got to know President Fox pretty well from Mexico.
Okay.
He was good. Bush, he was the one that I got to know the best. But from a young little Mexican kid from South Texas and South Austin to be able to say I've actually met 5 U.S. presidents.
Or just a lineup. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure you could name 50 people that'll blow people's minds. You know, it's.
Yeah, I mean, hanging out with some of the folks I've had the opportunity to hang out with and meet. I mean, it's been a pleasure. I mean, Edward James Olmos, one of my favorite people.
Actor, yeah.
You know, he's cool. I got to meet Dennis Hopper one time.
Really?
You know, he was a trip. You know, Jimmy Schmitz, Eva Longoria. We have, you know, any number of folks. I mean, half of them probably don't remember me.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was cool. My favorite actor that I met was Rita Moreno.
Okay.
I have a picture of her on my wall. I'm in a tux, looking good.
Yeah.
You know,
All swagged out.
It was all swagged out. I was in the middle in a tux. Rita Moreno is in red on one side of me, and on the other side is a young lady named Shelby. Shelby was the one who played the little girl in the movie Spanglish with Adam Sandler. She was the little girl, and I've watched her kind of grow up over here. She's from Texas, actually, originally from Brownsville. But I have all kinds of photos. Some people say, "Why don't you put them up?" And I go, "No, it'd be like a I love me wall." But I have the memories.
It's not a, what do you call it, Hooters?
Yeah.
Where you walk in and everybody, all the celebrities that went through Hooters or on the wall, or the wing pluckers.
Yeah. No, but I've met a lot of people. I know a lot of people. And I just feel very confident that when somebody needs something, and actually what you said, that is the way I survive a lot, because I've been hired as a consultant for any number of times, not necessarily of what I know, but who I know.
Yep.
If you need a door open, if you need a contact, if you need to sit down with somebody, call JR.
Access is more valuable than money.
Man, yeah. When I was...
and people will pay.
Oh.
Look at Cohen and Trump and what happened with all that.
Guys, for many years, I was, several years in D.C., I was paid a very nice retainer by certain corporations just for my contact list.
Yeah.
You know, I call it a Rolodex, but I'm old school. My contact list.
Yeah.
You go, Jared, we need to meet with so-and-so, or Jared, we need to meet this, or who do you know over here? I go, what do you need? They go, what state are you talking about? And my contacts, and I keep up with them. I mean, like I said, very, very fortunate to have a good contact list, not only locally, state of Texas, but nationally and even internationally.
Do you, and we're about to close out now, but let me ask you a question. Do you see yourself slowing down anytime soon, or do you feel like you already have slowed down?
You know, I went to a class reunion not too long ago, and I looked around, and man, some of those people are getting old.
Yeah.
I mean, I still look young.
Yeah.
I came to this conclusion. You know, people ask me about retirement. I go, if I retire, I'm just going to get old. So, God willing, I never plan on retiring. I mean, the day I die, which I hope is no time soon, I'll be at my computer. I'll be traveling someplace. I'll be somewhere doing something, because I have no plans on slowing down. Why? Just to you grow old.
Yeah.
They say, well, enjoy life. I go, I'm enjoying life now. I'm enjoying life by getting things done. And if my experience and if my training and my speaking engagements, the things I do, can help somebody else learn something, or if it can impact just one person's life in the positive, it was all worth it.
Very good. And last question, is there something you want to leave to, especially a young Hispanic kid out there from South Austin that's watching, that says, this guy that went to Crockett did all of this. I go to Crockett, or I go to Bowie, or I go to Travis. narrowing it down to boy or girl, it doesn't matter. What would you like to leave them with that they could apply to the next 50 years of their life?
Wow. I'd probably say pick a career path that you thoroughly enjoy.
Okay.
Because like I said earlier, money should be just a byproduct of doing what you enjoy. Do what you enjoy. Try to make a difference in life, and never, ever let anybody tell you that you can't do something. But while you're doing it, remember who you are and where you came from.
Yes.
And always give back. Always give back to your community, because if you don't give back, then no matter what you accomplish, at the end, it really wasn't worth it.
Money comes and goes, but those give outs, those handouts that you help people with last forever.
Talk to my accountant. It comes and goes.
Yeah.
I've been. I mean, it's kind of like you can't take it with you. Money is, like I said, money is just money. I know you need to pay the bills. There's times I wish I had more, but you know what? It's okay. I've lived a very full and rich life. No regrets. Wish I wouldn't have done some things. But for a young person, I just say, follow your dreams, and do not let anybody tell you can't do it. And with all the rhetoric and the political stuff that's going on, and
goes
name,
up and down
name
too.
calling, just don't even listen to it. Just don't even listen to it, because it doesn't even matter.
Very good. Well, Jared Gonzalez,
thank you very much, sir.
One of the most interesting man that's been on the show so far.
What, am I the first one or what?
No. Well, what's the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting man in the world?
You got it. Now, thank you. I mean, it's been a pleasure, and you got me to tell you a few things I normally don't tell a lot of people, especially about that pig.
I'm going to give you a birthday. I need to find out when your birthday is and give you I need to find Ralph the swimming pig.
Next time, one of these days off there, let me tell you some of my tequila stories, some of my travels in Mexico. Yeah?
There we go. I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.